you guys for joining us. I'm going to start the day with a little song. This is Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy grace, unending love, amazing grace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow. The sun forbear to shine, but God who called me here below will be forever. My chains are gone, set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. His mercy reigns. Unending love, amazing grace. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
That song never gets old. I'm glad to be here to host this afternoon's program. That song was written by John Newton, who was a phenomenal hymn writer and also an icon of the evangelical movement in the 1700s. And one of the things that he said when he was older, and I quote, "Although my memory's fading, I remember two things very clearly. I am a great sinner, and Christ is a great Savior." And the reason why his story is really pertinent and connects to Juneteenth is because, as some of you know, he was a slaver. He was a captain of a slave ship, and was involved in a lot of horrible acts as a result. And once he became a Christian, he was so thankful for what God had done. And it kind of relates again years later, 1865. Most of you know the story in terms of Juneteenth. And I'm just glad to, again, with Philip Thesaurus, to be celebrating and hosting this program. We have this program, this poetry program, which does several different presentations during the course of the year. Involves students, people of all ages, and I'm wonderfully appreciative to be a part of it. With that said, I'd like to introduce Kevin Nascimento, the Assistant Library Director with welcoming remarks.
All right. Thank you very much. I welcome you all here on behalf of the Brockton Public Library. I am Kevin Nascimento. I'm the Assistant Director here at the library, and we are proud to sponsor this kind of event, especially at this moment in our country, where we are having somewhat of an identity crisis that is going on right now. That's how I feel. Juneteenth, like the 4th of July, is a holiday that celebrates freedom. The 4th of July celebrates the first revolution in America with its limited freedom, but the second revolution, the Civil War, expanded on that first limited freedom. Juneteenth completes what the American Revolution and the Constitution started for American freedom. Juneteenth was the result of the Civil War victory for the North and the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery. Juneteenth represents a transformative nation where President Abraham Lincoln, at the time, declared in his Gettysburg Address after the Civil War and the freeing of the slaves, quote, "This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and shall not perish from the earth." Today we come to celebrate a holiday that combines the fate of the slave with the fate of the nation. Lincoln summed up Juneteenth and why we should celebrate the emancipation of the enslaved when Lincoln acknowledged their great accomplishment. He said, quote, "Without the military help of the black freedmen, the war against the South could not have been won. Black soldiers were the key to saving the Union, the United States." We have a lot to celebrate today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nick Krasno. I'm the director of our Digital Media Arts Center over at Massasoit Community College. And I was asked by Philip to produce a video to open the event, to open this event today, which was kind of an ominous responsibility, and I took it very seriously. I wanted to do justice to the holiday and to the spirit of this holiday. I grew up in the Jewish tradition, and every Passover, at every Passover Seder every year of my life, we talked about freedom, and if any of us is not free, none of us is free. And that's a tradition that I've carried forth through my whole life, and has been fostered by friends and family, friends like Tim and Janet Trask here in Brockton, people in Massasoit that I worked with. As I approached this video, I wanted to do justice to it. Philip had suggested a song by Johnny Clegg, Africa, and I listened to it, and it's a good song. And then I was thinking maybe I should use Lift Every Voice, the Black national anthem. And I talked to my friend Virginia Dupina, who said, why don't you do something a little bit different? She gave me 3 songs. I wanted to break this up into 3 parts. I thought there really were three parts to this holiday as I really broke it down and examined it. One is enslavement, which is how this started. 2 is emancipation, and 3 is really celebrating freedom, which is what Juneteenth was about. I'll play the video in a second, but I think that the freedoms of all of us, but especially the freedoms that have been gained, are in question now with this current administration, and I think we all need to fight every day for justice for everyone. And I hope the video does justice to the spirit of the holiday.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my own grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Open correctional gates in high desert. Open our minds to cast away oppression. Open the streets and watch our beliefs. And when they call my name inside the concrete, I pray it forever. Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. I break chains about myself. Won't let my freedom run in hell. Hey, I'ma keep on running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves. Holding on my freedom, can't take it from me. I was born into it, it comes naturally. I'm serving my own freedom, Creator God in me. Represent His glory, 'cause He's proud of me. 'Cause He's proud of me.
Thank you, Ed. As I was viewing the video, I was reminded of recently I did a presentation last week in Bristol, Rhode Island, and I was sharing with the audience there what's happening recently with ICE and some of the immigrants reminds me of the 1850s, after the passage of the Fugitive Slave Act, we had situations where runaway slaves came to the north, and now the government weaponized this law, and so slave catchers could actually come up to the north and pull former slaves off the streets of Boston and other northern cities and re-enslavement. And recently, as I watched high school students being pulled by ICE, and it just, 1850s, 2025, this whole time that we're living in, very, very, very challenging. Our next speaker, Marvin, is a poet, author, educator, and will share with us some of the themes that occur.
Oh, man. I'm just really reeling from that video. Once more, give it a wonderful hand for that video. That was fun. So glad to be here. I'm honored to be invited by my friend Philosaurus, who many times brought me out to the community of Brockton to share in a variety of things. So once again, thank you for bringing me out. Shout out to the library for having me gracious to bring me. Thank you. So I'm part of the Rhode Island Black Storytellers, and a lot of what we do is you're kind of the keeper of history, and whether you mean to or not, sometimes you go places and you're teaching. So before I shared this piece, I said, well, people always want to know the why. Like, well, why is there black now? Why is there a need for that? I said, well, when we dig into our history, we don't always find things that are comfortable. So when you dig in, you go to the second and third verses of the Star-Spangled Banner, which is modeled after a Irish drinking song, you find lines like, "No refuge could save the hireling and the slave from the sting of the whip and the gloom of the grave." There's a lot more to this song, and we sing the first half. We're very idealistic nation, so we hold to the things that are more noble, the things that are more honorable. So in this song here, if we're talking about literary voice and sing, there's, stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. Most black people who love this song don't want to talk about that piece. So when we dig into our history, we get to places where we're uncomfortable, and that's where you begin to get people starting to pushing back against educating our young people so that they can find out why we got here and how we got here, so that they can move forward in the best way possible. But we have to go through this together, because as the topic I have today is the speed of progress. The speed of progress. What is the speed of progress? Today we gather to commemorate Juneteenth, a day of celebration, a day of remembrance, and more than ever, a day of reflection. June 19, 1865, over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed. That's how long it took for freedom to reach the enslaved people of Galveston, Texas. 2 years. That's not just a clerical error. Can you imagine that? Galveston was an agricultural area. One of the main crops of the area, of course, was cotton, but also sweet potatoes, and also many kinds of berries, including strawberries. So that's 2 more seasons of crops, 2 more years of economy for Galveston. So this wasn't just an accident. But I want you to imagine a scene. I want you to imagine Galveston, Texas, 1865, June 19. The weather there, as I did check, tended to be around 88, 90-something, feels like 100 type of weather. I want you to imagine a young girl waking up, about 7 or 8 years old. Little girl gets up, she throws on her cotton dress, barefoot, wipes her eyes to go out and pick berries before the sun rises. And she's out in the fields picking the berries. And when you do something long enough, it becomes automatic. You just sort of do it. And your mind is racing with thoughts. She's just picking and putting in, picking and putting in. And each berry is riper and redder and juicier than the next, making her hands sticky, her blistered fingers from picking last year's cotton and this year's berries. A little 7 or 8-year-old girl was picking not eat one of those. A day ago, she'd been whipped for even licking the juice off of her fingers. But today, all of the adults are jumping around and shouting, they're abandoning their buckets, they're shouting out words she doesn't understand. Liberation, emancipation, freedom, and they're shouting and singing and dancing and crying at the same time, and everyone's abandoning all the work, and she doesn't know what to do, 7 years old in the midst of all this, and she just sticks both hands into the bucket of strawberries and smushes it all over her face. And the strawberry juice and pieces are dripping off of her face. That is Juneteenth. That's the taste of sudden change after an eternity of waiting. But let's be honest, freedom didn't truly arrive that day, did it? Not fully. What came was an announcement, an idea. The road ahead would be long. Justice, repair, reconciliation. These things have always taken a long time in America, especially for black people. Progress crawls when it comes to justice, but when it's about oppression, when it's about restrictions, somehow the gears turn lightning fast. Let me ask you this. How fast did we go from Reconstruction to Jim Crow? How fast did we go from celebrating the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to watching Dr. King's assassination on the balcony in Memphis, 1968? How fast did we go from electing our first black president in 2008 to a birther movement, a backlash, voter suppression laws being passed across the country? How long did it take to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday? 155 years. Let's compare that to how quickly laws have been passed to ban books, to restrict the teaching of history, to limit voting access. It doesn't take decades. It takes days, sometimes hours. In 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, we saw an uprising. We saw murals and marches and promises of change, and all my white friends called me, check on your black friend, check on your black friend, they're not okay, they're not okay. First time in my 47 years of life, I experienced this dramatic change. And it felt like people were listening. But then came the swift response. New laws to penalize protesters, anti-CRT laws pushed in the school district, DEI offices closed down, history whitewashed in real time. This is the speed of the resistance to progress. So today, Juneteenth is not just a party. It's not just red velvet cake and barbecue. It's a moment of reckoning. It's time to ask yourself these questions. Do you like the progress that has been made? How has the progress helped rectify the problem? Has the issue been resolved? Do you think there's room for improvement? And what are the next steps? Ask yourself and answer honestly. Let's look at a couple of examples here. In the 50s and 60s, ordinary people, black people, white people, allies, young and old, rose up. They marched, they sat in, they were buses, they risked everything. And what came? Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, affirmative action policies. It was a victory, hard-earned, painful, necessary. But in the 1980s, a different story was being written. With the so-called war on drugs, we saw mass incarceration, devastating black communities. We saw mandatory minimums, stop and frisk, the criminalization of poverty. The system didn't break. It evolved. New chains, new cages. 2008 was historic. A black man became president of the United States. For a moment, we dreamed a dream our ancestors didn't even dare whisper. But that dream awakened the backlash, voter ID laws, racially coded language, the rise of the Tea Party, a cultural and political regression that set the stage for what came next, and what we have now. Each of these movements shows us that progress is not linear. It's not guaranteed, It's not inevitable. It is earned, and it can be lost. So what is Juneteenth to us now? It is a reminder of what was, what is, and what still needs to be. It is a celebration, yes, but it is also a charge to remember the speed of progress is not measured in years. It's measured in persistence. And how often we get up when the world knocks us down is measured in who we lift up as we climb. Think about this little girl again. Mary. The strawberry juice dripping down her chin. She didn't know what the future would hold. And in that moment, she tasted possibility. She tasted something sweet. Have you ever recalled the taste of something so sweet? Been triggered by the smell of it. Tasted something that tasted like it. But this isn't quite it. It needs something else. Little girl Mary tasted freedom that first day. And 155 years later, we are left to ponder the reality of the speed of progress. Let us be the ones who make that taste last, carry it forward, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after. The speed of progress is in our hands now. Let's pick up the pace, y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that rendering. I was just thinking in terms of General Gordon, as some of you might know, he did deliver the Federal Bill number 3 to Galveston, but many people did know that the slaves were free. So many times a lot of people think that none of them were notified, but what happened, we did not have federal forces to enforce the law. But some of them did know, and as Marvin shared with us, those plantation owners wanted to get those extra crops in. Next, we'd like to bring Sarah Lang, Brockton High art student, and she is debuting an original art piece commemorating Juneteenth. And as a former high school teacher, college professor, it's always, I think, one of the things that we need to do, we have to, within the curriculum, institute that portion that involves activism. And it's not enough to teach young people about their history, but to teach them to be activists. And at this time, Sarah is going to talk about it, one of the piece.
Ooh. So, what inspired you to create this?
This is inspired by Carl Walker's using charcoal and then marker and gray and black paper. Picture work usually revolves around African Americans and their struggle. I wanted to show what racism was like in the 1800s, 2010s, and today because racism somehow still exists in 2025.
I think I'm just going to repeat it again. This is inspired by Kara Walker's work using charcoal, permanent marker, and gray and black paper. Since her work usually revolves around African Americans and their struggles, I wanted to show what racism was like in the 1800s, 2010s, and today, because racism somehow still exists in big 2025. A lot of times the conflicts that many African Americans or anyone who identifies as black are overlooked by people who have never experienced it themselves. This piece shows the reality. And Sarah is a graduate, she'll be a graduate of the class of 26. And let's just, the speak, a piece is just really unique. And I don't know if visually you can see it, but close up, the use of the charcoal and the black paper, the images, very, very evocative. It's just very moving. And now that's one quadrant. What about this quadrant here? And there's a lot of gray, there are some trees, there's sparse, but there's this dark figure here, and then over here, someone looking at a grave and the violence and people being pulled away by police in terms of someone that they love. Now, what I like about this, first we have the images, and you explained these two quadrants, and the audience can see that the trees are bare, the limbs, very few leaves. But when we get to the bottom two quadrants, here we have leaves, and we can see trees that are more in bloom. But we also have dark figures. So as you say, as more and more people embrace their culture, the trees are growing. There's growth, there's fruit, there's progress. Okay? And then this last one, again, a figure showing somebody cutting up the tree. And you notice these upper two quadrants, they're not growing, but here we have growth. And now, as she said, erasing history, cutting off the contributions that people have made relating to that. Very moving. Thank you so much for sharing. And Sarah is going to be a graduate of the class of 2026. Some of you probably know Brockton High was established in 1864, first graduated class in 1867. I was a member of the class of 1970, the last class from the old building, but it was beautiful. And thank you very much for that contribution. And we have with us, for the last part of our program, new to some, but not to all, Baptiste, Brockton Youth Poet Laureate, Emeritus. And I met Hannah some years ago, and just have been impressed with her work. And at this time, Baptiste.
Okay, so when I was thinking about what to perform today, my first poem is a new one. I wrote it for Juneteenth, but it could honestly apply to any month of the year. So there's this phrase that's said very commonly on social media under, I would say, like montages of Black history that that says, "I hope I'm Black in every lifetime." So this poem is called that, and it's inspired by that. I hope I'm Black in every lifetime. I hope every lifetime I inhabit opens with a family reunion of everyone and everything we have become. Whether I'm from the American South or sprinkled elsewhere in the diaspora, I hope this existence is nestled in the ridges of my development. I hope I'm Black in every lifetime, where the cornrows transform like landscapes from maps of freedom to paths of expression, with freedom intertwined across centuries, continuing to grow with each new birth. In every lifetime, Blackness is the atmosphere holding everything together. Black is boundless, Black is endless, Black is rebirth, Black is our earth, Black is spiritual, Black is the main visual, Black is hair picks poking out of afros, Black is hair beads announcing our arrival, Black is locks showing the growth of our people through defiance and alliance, revolutions aimed at the sun, shining down on our sun-kissed people. I hope I will always experience the art revolutions and genres of music we founded, where the music stomps through our blood cells to multiply and create new life. I hope I'm Black in every lifetime, because all my life I've been free and I've been at sea, floating with the impact of our existence across these oceans. In every lifetime, Others want us to be the roots in the earth so they can enjoy the fruit above ground and continue to take what will always be able to regrow. Others suppress us yet want to be us. Black is the blueprint, the origin, and the source. In every lifetime, I hope I continue to originate here. Every day we release the weights that were shackled to our bodies, and today we celebrate the day African Americans were made aware of what we knew in our hearts, that our existence is freedom personified, and despite the struggles, we find a way to be free in every lifetime. On Juneteenth especially, I hope I'm Black in every lifetime, because there is no freedom like being blessed with our existence, and no beauty like our persistence. This next poem is titled The Living Testament of Black Girlhood. I was inspired to write this poem because I turned 21 last month, and ever since then I have been mourning the loss of my childhood. So this poem is a combination of mourning loss of my childhood and just embracing everything that comes with growing up Black. So once again, it's titled The Living Testament of Black Girlhood. I, Black girlhood, being of sound mind, declare this to be my last will and testament. These memories of the cycle of joy and pain are what will remain after I am gone. I leave you with the memories of persistence when you taught yourself how to smooth your hair into a ponytail, just to be met with the bump of the roadblocks in your hair, stopping you from getting a perfect ponytail, forming potholes of frustration that sink deeper with more pressure until you learn that perfection can't always be achieved, but the progress you make on the way to your destination will always produce waves of celebration. I know you will remember the hair baubles, bubbles, beads, and barrettes that felt like doors slamming on your scalp with being attached to your hair, and the hair grease and hot combs where burning became a ritual. Learning that the absence of pain is a mere myth, but understanding that goodness is still there when the dust settles. I leave you with the natural hair journey with missed highway exits during your drive to the destination of self-love, where the wind rattled through your ears and hair, and you learned that finding where your beauty lies will have detours, but you'll reach your destination in due time. You will inherit the scar on your knee that have graced the lives of most Black people. The stories of induction may differ, but the wound that became a beauty mark remains the same for all. I leave you with the hands-clapping games, Miss Mary Mack, Concentration 64, and many more that roared through the sound waves at recess and after-school pickup lines, where you hardened your calluses through play and friendship, learning that the best foundations are laid with a village at your side. I hope you remember the scripture from long sermons and Sunday school sessions that you can still picture as the shadow of adulthood disappears and you take its place in the light. I hope you maintain your close connections with the family, friends, and makeshift cousins you played with in the backyard at family functions. I hope you heal from the experiences unique to your existence. My legacy differs for everyone in my path, and some are left with more lessons than others. When my departure becomes a reality and I am reborn for newcomers, I, Black girlhood, after I am gone, after I am only sealed in the diaries of your memory, remember me for all I have left you with. I will never truly be gone, for I am present in the scars, burn marks, calluses, and smile lines that remain bonded onto your body and mind. I will never truly leave you and will follow you to every lifetime you inhabit. I, Black girlhood, sign my name to this instrument and bid you farewell. Okay. This is a poem that I've performed many times, but I'm going to read it again today because for Juneteenth, we celebrate freedom and we celebrate loving ourselves in our culture. So this poem is titled, Learning to Love Yourself in All Stages of Black. Learning to love yourself in all stages of Black has no guidebook, no 12-step program. There is no self-help book to qualm the longing that comes with learning to love your contradictions and not falling victim to life's convictions created by those wanting you to collapse in hatred from standards you didn't set. There is no guided meditation to deal with the tremor in your brain waves that turn your dark pigmentation into ruptured gas lines that a city will take too long to repair. There are no steps to learning to love yourself when you begin to see dark skin as something disturbed and not natural. There are no steps to learning to love yourself when the sun doesn't take your skin under its wing and you begin to compare yourself to others. Learning to love myself in all stages of Black is to say no to a world that wants us to look like expensive American Girl dolls at every hour. It is to accept the frizz and embrace its need to find its own path in life, even if it's inconvenient for me. It is to accept that my curls may not look the same the next day, and still find a way to look in the mirror and see royalty that was pushed aside for centuries by colonizers, but still found a way to reclaim the throne. Learning to love myself in all stages of Black is to be okay when my edges puff like an exhale of all that don't belong in my lungs, releasing standards I thought were needed for me to succeed. It is to see myself through my own eyes. It is learning to be okay with shrinkage because the dandelion is still beautiful before it takes flight. It is learning to unravel the sailor's knot of centuries of sailing with no anchors and being beaten into other people's molds. It is unraveling the knots from the boat docks you were tied to, waiting to show you the next stage of your imprisonment. Learning to love myself in all stages of Black is to not apologize when my journey is different from another. It is to not apologize when my anger comes hurling down like a failed space mission because the stage of patience decided it was time to act. It is to not apologize for taking up space because that's what we were meant to do. It is to laugh like it's your last day to do so, knowing your laugh makes ships move with the way it rumbles the surface of the water just enough to move forward after someone tried to tell you you were too loud and should be silenced. It is to accept that to the outside, I may not look perfected, but know that my inner peace is protected. It is to accept that one day I will tell myself I love myself wholeheartedly in every stage of Black and believe it. Okay, my last poem today is specifically a Juneteenth poem. It is, the poem is in response to Coretta Scott King's quote, "Struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation." When Juneteenth was made a national holiday, these questions replaced the constellations that we look for in the night sky for answers. What is Juneteenth? And was freedom ever really won? As we sit in a history classroom and learn about how Black Texans heard the wind chimes of freedom, that generation seeing their freedom be reached, but the next needing to search for it again amongst the stars. The fight for freedom is something we'll always see in the night sky, the astrology behind our eyelids and disappearing when we open them, but we always find our way back to it every time it's needed again for guidance. Freedom, the uphill battle, putting sores in your feet, replacing your back muscles with hot coals, traveling into your lungs, rattling and scraping your insides every time the breeze shifts directions. Freedom in the Black existence is a battle that never seems to be won. It is an oxygen tank helping us through the motions. It is the thing that always seems to get stuck in purgatory when we thought we were on an angel's back to heaven. But on Juneteenth, we celebrate the heat of the cookouts we get to have and the freedom to own a business instead of being on the fields. We remind ourselves of the blood, sweat, and tears that became the slaves' only meal. We remind ourselves of the ancestors choking on their own blood when just wanting to take a breath. As we remember the freedoms we get to inhale and exhale, hitting the brakes for a moment without consequences. We celebrate being allowed in classrooms where our brains get cloaked in chalk and expo marker dust, reminding us of the different paths we get to take. Even though we may still have to teach ourselves lessons not taught in school, we reflect on how to keep reaching for our desires in the midst of a night sky with no visible stars. This is when we close our eyes and rejoice in our ability to see constellations and planets without a telescope, because our ancestors were the first to reclaim that power. The next time someone asks you what Juneteenth is, tell them it is an outcry for all the battles left to endure and a celebration for all that is pure. It is a protest that cannot be ignored. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. You never disappoint. I was thinking of Lucia Shannon, who was the reference librarian here. And when I taught African American history at Brockton High, this library actually had Juneteenth programs. This is years ago. The library, to my knowledge, was the first entity that actually, under Lucia's direction, had activities for the program. And I'd be remiss of not saying too also that where we are situated, this is where Brockton High was physically located in the 1880s up to 1906, when the A building was built. And then of course the B building was built in 1916. So history, this actual physical place has relevance. But I look back at Sarah's beautiful, beautiful work. And this is, every Juneteenth is different, but I'm glad we're actually commemorating this in film, so people who weren't able to attend live can see the wonderful work that's transpired this afternoon under the leadership of Philip Soros and wonderful, wonderful speakers. So with that said, thank you very much and happy Juneteenth. Woo!